I do understand what you're saying too with that part of it, because it was like, I was really pissed off. Like normally the other stuff, I'm like, what an idiot. Let him farm his bag off of other idiots, you know? But this one was like, what if somebody like shows up my son's school because of this weird dude, bro? Like, you know, you can't control your viewers, but you know, you're putting like a match to flame. Something's going to happen.
Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Unfiltered Podcast. My name is Minges, and today we are joined by one of the most consistent creators and trusted names in the Warzone scene. We've had some huge names on the podcast so far, but this one might be the most well-renowned across the Call of Duty community. JGOD, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, well, I'm glad to be here.
A bit of housekeeping. Firstly, hello and thank you to our Patreon members watching the early release of this podcast. For anyone considering joining the Unfiltered community over there, not only will you be able to catch these episodes early, you'll be able to put forward your own questions to upcoming guests, as well as access to some deleted scenes, bonus segments like our rapid fire round, and the reaction to some of the wildest, weirdest, and funniest comments handpicked from our guests' socials. A link for all of that will be in the description below. Aside from that, as always, any likes, shares of this episode will be huge for the growth of the channel. We're aiming for 1,000 subscriptions by the end of the year on YouTube, so please subscribe so you never miss another episode. But for now, JGOD, we do start these podcasts on a food-related question, hopefully to get things going on the right foot so there's no pressure on you. But I got to ask, a hot dog, is it a taco or a sandwich?
I would say it's more of a sandwich than a taco, but that's mainly because obviously if you do a flour or corn tortilla is that's how you get a taco. But I don't know, it probably fits in another category too. I don't know.
I was going to say, I like the way you tend to answer those kinds of questions. I thought I'd ask that one in particular because it goes to show a lot of how you go about creating your content on your channels, because you do like to try and get into the nitty-gritty, the details. You're going into the ingredients just then. So I think that goes to show that you're very analytical like that, and I'll be interested to hear about all that soon. But let's just start off with the beginning. Like, how did you get into gaming? What were you into as a kid?
Well, I've always been in gaming. I think when I was like 2 years old or 1 year old or whatever, my dad had bought a Nintendo Entertainment System. I have an older brother and a sister, so they were playing it. I was probably like 2 when I was playing like Mario Brothers or whatever. And then over time, I've always been kind of like a gamer passively, where I would invest a good amount of time into gaming. Super Nintendo, then it was still like the Mario stuff. Then we got kind of into N64, where we get like Mario 64 as well as like Donkey Kong, and you know, you got Star Fox and you know, all these other games, and then you know, kind of involves, there's wrestling games, there's all kinds of games that come out. And then we get into like PlayStation, Xbox, you know, you get into a variety of games with Chrono Trigger, you know, the Final Fantasy series, pretty much all of those, you know, and so I had a pretty broad like genre in terms of games. I always liked RPG because I feel like you get your most bang for your buck in terms of single player games. Multiplayer games are cool, but back then we had split screen, you know, 007, and that was about as good as it got. And you know what was funny is back then is a lot of people would think you're good. You're only playing your 3 siblings or
you only
whatever.
know the people
That's
you know.
it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time they allowed like somebody to bring in like an Xbox to the school, and people were playing Halo, and people thought they were good at Halo, and then they were getting smacked by somebody that was actually good at Halo. You know, so It was kind of one of those ones. So yeah, I've been playing games way back when, and I've been playing Call of Duty basically since, you know, COD 4, Modern Warfare, the original, like that blew up the franchise. It was obviously known before then, but it was mainly a PC game. But then like it took off after that. But that was around like my high teens, I believe. Like I was like 18 or something like that. So
yeah,
I wasn't like 4 years old picking up the controller for COD. So I wish I could go back and have that level of practice with first person shooters and multiplayer, you know?
What was it like sharing it with the older brothers and sisters? Were they just like, did they let you have a turn, or were they kind of like you had to fight your way to get it?
My sister wasn't really big into the gaming stuff. So it was mainly my older brother who's 4 years older. And then I have a brother that's 2 years younger. So it was always like me and my older brother, we'd play the games. We'd maybe trade off. And then my younger brother, he was kind of screwed. Like he had to watch.
Yeah, no chance.
We gave him the controller unplugged. He think he's playing. Like, no.
So what got you into the YouTube world? Because I know back in the day, YouTube wasn't a huge thing for gaming when it first started out. But how did you find that sort of world?
So it kind of happened by accident, I guess you can say. Like, well, I mean, I was kind of late to YouTube. I didn't even realize YouTube. I never watched YouTube videos. People didn't talk about YouTube. Basically, around the time of 2015, I believe it was. My wife, she passed while she was at work. She was killed in a shooting that killed like 12 people. So it was kind of a big life-changing thing. I had a 2-year-old, and at that time, like I ended up getting more free time. So I started playing even more games because I didn't have to work 8 hours a day. I was taking care of my son. And then I was going to school and stuff like that. And then around that time, I was playing another game called The Division, which is kind of like a looter shooter, mainly PvE, but there are PvP elements to the game. So with that happened, I transitioned. I was like, oh, let me look up like some videos. And these are like the first videos I looked up, which was a creator by the name of SkillUp. Now he does video game reviews. Big Australian streamer, or content creator, SkillUp. I think he has like almost 1 million subs or something like that. But that's the content that he made was analytical, kind of like Exclusive Ace, today type thing, or even some of the videos I've done or other creators. And well, once that game tapered off, I transitioned to, you know what? I've never dropped a nuke in COD. Let me go ahead and like do it. I have the time. Let me invest a little bit extra time. So I looked up some videos. First video pops up is Exclusive Ace, how to drop a nuke in Infinite Warfare, which wasn't even a popular COD. I didn't know that at the time. I enjoyed the game, but it was what it was. And then you got down the rabbit hole of the algorithm and you start watching other people. And by this time I'm binge watching like, all kinds of videos. Within a couple of days, I dropped my first nuke, and then I'm able to drop them regularly. Almost had like a 4 KD, like from a 1.7 to a 4, like instantly. And that was kind of a big transition where you were able to go, okay, I can do this. And I was like, you know what? I have time. Maybe I'll like consider doing some YouTube videos as a hobby, and maybe teach people kind of what I learned, because I'm proof that you can learn and improve. Because even prior to that, I thought, like, I would look at the leaderboards. I'm like, no way somebody has a 7 KD. There's no way. People can't be that good. They must be glitching the leaderboard or something. And then come to find out, yeah, there's really people that crazy, especially back then when SBMM wasn't what it is today.
It wasn't a thing.
Yeah. So that transition, and I basically said, hey, you know what? I'm going to start my YouTube channel August of 2017 was when I kind of committed to saying, hey, I'm going to upload. And I uploaded like 1 or 2 videos a week, and then it became 3, then 4. And I uploaded a bunch of variety stuff too. I did some game reviews. I did some Destiny stuff. But the goal was, hey, I'm going to make Call of Duty videos when World War II drops. But I need reps. It's like I can't make content about IW. It's already dead. Like the game's already over. So I made a few videos of that and a transition, and I kind of had a vision on where I wanted to take my content. And initially when I started, it was mainly tips and tricks. And, I do the one-off gameplays. All my videos were gameplays where essentially I would use a gun and say, hey, here's the best class setup, like a lot of creators do now even. But mine was always a twist where what I would do is that was like the bait to get people in. And then I would do a tutorial on how to improve, because if you label a video how to improve, people don't click on that the same way of this is the best overpowered class setup and whatever. So I transitioned my and that became my basis of reacting to randoms and top player gameplays and a lot of that subscriber gameplay reactions. So that was like a basis for that, where I was able to transition and do it that way. And that's kind of how it happened. After the first couple months, I had gotten monetized on YouTube. I got my first $100 payout. And then, I was doing the math and I was like, oh, okay, well, all I need is this amount of views and I'll make what my salary would be as a teacher once I graduate. So I was like, all right, we'll see if we can get there by this date. And then by that date, we weren't there, but it was within, jumping distance. Yeah, it was there. So then once I got to that point, I was like, all right, cool, I can do this, have the flexibility of my free time, and then, do what I want when I want, and then still be able to do everything I want with my son type thing.
So it was kind of like that line ball decision. You were sort of, I'm guessing you were studying at the time to be a teacher.
Yeah, I have, like if I went back, it'd probably take me 18 months. I have like 2 classes and a credential, which the credential usually takes about a year. And the 2 classes, I could do them at the same time. So it would probably be about a year and a half if I said, hey, I'm ready to do it. And I'd graduate with my bachelor's and have the credential.
Was that a hard decision to come by, like choosing between those 2 routes to take?
No, not once it was foreseeable, because I know that like if I want to do something, then I can like I used to be a manager before I started making videos. I used to work at a gym, and I used to be a sales manager. So I used to train people, and I moved from different locations. So I had a really good grasp of like how a business functions in terms of your profit and loss, and like what your drivers are for the business to be successful. Like if you're trying to acquire customers, which in this particular case, you're trying to acquire viewers, and like what are the metrics that determine that? What's your upload frequency, the length of the video, the SEO stuff, the title, thumbnail. You literally understand the business. And then once I got to a certain point, I could see my trajectory based off where things were going. We knew that World War II wasn't a popular COD, but I enjoyed it. So then we thought, oh, we're going to get BO4. That's going to pop off. And then BO4 popped off. And then we're like, we're going to get Modern Warfare. And it popped off initially. It started falling flat a little bit. And then all of a sudden, Warzone. And it was over. It was over.
Yeah. I was going through your channel and I went through a deep dive all the way back to the start. So I wanted to ask you about when you first started and you made this decision that, okay, I want to start making videos and things like that. Obviously, you were doing everything yourself, and I think you still are. If I'm
yes, 100%.
Mistaken. How did you start leveling up your skills? Was there someone that like inspired you for thumbnails, like a style, or did you kind of just make it up as you went?
Well, especially in the beginning, it was made up. Like they were terrible thumbnails, terrible.
They're all red. Yeah,
terrible. Right, it's awful, and you learn from it. And then like I would spend like 4 hours. It was like a full-time job learning YouTube, and since I didn't have a quote unquote full-time job outside of taking care of my son, I had a lot of time. If he takes a nap, I could watch 5 videos or whatever on how to make a thumbnail. And what you would do is you would watch like 5 different creators on how to make a thumbnail. And they all have different, like 7 out of the 10 things they say are basically the same, but the 3 they don't, you kind of just, steal from here and there and boom. And then what you would do is then you would analyze creators in the space. So whether that was like Korean Savage, Exclusive Ace, Elite Shot at the time, Swag, a lot of different creators, what they're doing, what's working, what's not. And then you just like understand that part. And then you got to combine that with the SEO stuff. And the SEO goes like super deep. And sometimes videos can get lucky because literally it's just about timing and whatever. But for the most part, you make a good video, you just need people to see it. And a lot of that SEO stuff and thumbnail title is really important for that. And early on, I was really against of even like modest clickbait that's still truthful, because like you want to be honest. But the algorithm just doesn't enjoy that. People aren't going to click on a gun. This gun's okay. Like
no one's clicking on that. Yeah.
Like, and you know what's sad is every viewer knows it. And so if you even sensationalize just a little bit, some viewers still don't like it. But it's like, what do you expect me? You wouldn't have seen this video unless I put that title. If I put it's okay, guess what? It's not going to pop up on your next up feed or recommend. It's not going to happen. You don't even know who I am. If I go, this gun is mid, like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. They're never going to be able to comment on that video because they're never going to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, did you ever feel like, you said some videos you just get lucky and you put a lot of work into all these kinds of things, and sometimes something might not perform how you expect it. Did you ever get those sort of knockbacks that you were thinking, am I doing something wrong, or why am I doing this for? Like, was there any sort of feeling about that?
I don't think so, because I've kind of had an idea of how I want to build a video. I don't use scripting. I guess I could make better videos if I scripted and did different takes and all these stuff. Usually almost everything I've done is off the top of my head, or I have a couple of bullet points, or I'm working back and forth through a spreadsheet. So sometimes a video I might miss an idea. I was like, dang, I forgot to say that. But it's like, it's too late now. It is what it is. So in general, I never really felt that. There's things that I wanted to improve. I used to really look at metrics a lot, like the first 30 seconds, where the video people were dropping off, and some things like spectating randoms, for example. I have had videos where they have like a 17-minute retention on like a 28-minute, which is insane retention. And I go back and I look at the video and I'm like, what was special about this video? Nothing. Like compared to another one. I've even gone on my way to reenact like what happens in the beginning and my verbiage, timing, tempo to be identical, and the first 30 seconds not really. It doesn't replicate. So some part of that, like with those videos, it could just be the interest in the game. When I was doing them during peak Verdansk and Caldera, the videos did quite well. Even on my second channel, they'd be well. No matter what I posted, the interest in the game was an all-time high, COVID, whatever. When we got to Warzone 2, the game was such a bad state. Like, people loved talking about how much they hated the game.
That was the general consensus.
Yeah, they loved talking about how they weren't playing the game. But they wanted to. It sucked. So it was what it was. And it kind of got to a point where it's like, damn, like, I don't want to make a video saying this game sucks every day. Like, it does, but what am I supposed to do?
At
least now.
So many times you can say that.
Yeah.
Hi, we'll get back to the conversation in just a second. But you know what else takes just a second? Checking out our Patreon. There's no way we can get through everything there is to know about a creator in just an hour. So if you want more of the conversation, you can find bonus segments, comment reactions, and more on the Patreon page. There's opportunities for you to ask questions to future guests, as well as access some Discord exclusive perks. It's simple. If you want more from your favorite people, come check out the Patreon page. This show is entirely self-funded, so any support helps secure future episodes and ensures its best production possible. You can find the links in the description below. Thank you again, as always. But for now, let's get back to the conversation.
And then you kind of turn people off because the people that are kind of enjoying it, or like most COD players, they don't have any other outlet besides COD. Like literally they do not play any other games because they were like indoctrinated into COD from the birth or something. But like for me, luckily I had like 15 years of gaming, 16 years of gaming before COD. So whatever the dopamine hits that you get from COD, I've had in other games, single player games, other multiplayer games, other experiences, but a lot of people don't have that. And what is unfortunate about that is when COD sucks, they play it 10 hours a day still. And they hate it every second. And they can't not play anything else.
Yeah. You're sort of like butting your head against the wall for no reason when you can literally go do anything else.
Yeah. And then it's okay. I understand it because it's like I've seen people where they generally could play all kinds of games. They start playing them. They're instantly bored. I'm like, how? It's just, it is what it is. It is, So I've come to accept that. It's just unfortunate in those scenarios because then it's like, well, I don't want to talk about the game being crappy, but then like, I'm not going to talk that it's good because then all the people that are passionate that it's crappy are going to come say something. So it is what it is. It's just kind of like the ebb and flow. You deal with it. I think this year is a really good year. They're still like recovering from their hangover. I think that this Rebirth coming out was a huge step in the right direction. I think they're really missing out on big map stuff. I think that by the time season 5, I think hits, everyone's going to be gassing up the game. We're going to be ready for Treyarch, new map, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be, I think the game's going to be really excelling. Not COVID numbers, but pretty dang close, I think.
I think the funniest part about everything that you were just saying right there is the Cod Cycle. That cycle that continues to happen every single game, every single year. There's a bit of negativity, then hype at the start, and then a little stage of everyone enjoying it. Then it starts to go downhill. We're looking forward to the next game, and then it gets into more negative until you get to the next game. And I noticed that in the trend towards your videos as you're going from World War II up to the next CODs and things like that. You'd go from hundreds of views, then all of a sudden you'd get thousands of views the next game. And then the next game would come out, you'd level up, you'd get like 10,000s of views. And by the time you got to Modern Warfare from Blackout, you were starting to hit like hundreds of thousands of views on videos. And that, I mean, did you feel that was basically coming from the hype of the game or from yourself leveling up and sort of growing that community on YouTube?
There's a combination of both because there is a new game brings new players. And part of that is that when you bring new players into it, there's people that are going to play the next Treyarch game. It'll be their first Call of Duty. They've never played another Call of Duty. And the things that we take for granted, like creating a class, setting up score streaks, how to find the playlist and the mess that it is, new players don't know those things. So a lot of times you're making videos to grow your audience, and the audience that already knows it, if they want to support, they'll watch. If not, no big deal. They'll be there for the other content that they want to see. Usually the YouTube algorithm's good at serving videos. So like your regular subscribers might not even see those videos because the algorithm will push them knowing that these are new people interested in searching for this topic. So a lot of times that's the biggest like oomph of a boost that you're going to get. And I've done a lot of research at the start. I look at like 50 different creators' channels. I'm looking at what they posted, what did well relative to their sub count, like what do thumbnails look like. I get full spreadsheets looking at like ratios and I'm planning out. So in reality, that sounds complicated, but the reality is it's like one video, 7 people made it, and I'm just like searching for the best one. All right, why did this do well? Boom. That's like gives me a foot in the right direction. And I don't necessarily have to change my content. I'm still going to make my same video, but I might title it. I might format it slightly different. I could look at, now on YouTube, you can see where people were most interested.
Yep.
You might move that earlier up so that people feel like they're getting what they want, right? Or maybe you push it out further because people will stick around to that point. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff. You're not really changing. You could just format it and just slightly optimize. So the videos might get incrementally better, but the reality is like, the timing of the videos too. I might have uploaded this on the first day and this is like on the third day. But if this was on the first, more people were looking for that. I might have been better just to put that one on the back burner. It'll still do good on day 3. Day 1, it has to be this video. And I was fortunate enough to plan ahead and figure it out. Whereas I think a lot of creators get to the day of and it's like, all right, I'm putting up the Lockman sub best class setup. All right, cool. And that's fine too. I don't knock them. It's just, it is what it is. They have a different direction they want to take their channel, I guess, on content.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got this sort of, I don't want to say, you've got the reps, you've got the repetition in, you know what works at what stage of the year, I guess. And, what's going to fill in what gaps when things are slow and things like that. You do, I mean, if anyone wants to scroll back and look at the old JGOD videos, it's a lot of the same sort of, other spectating randoms, this is how you build the best class, this is how you get better, and it's sort of repeated itself every Call of Duty and it's progressively got bigger. So I think the most impressive thing is you've been able to build yourself this reputation as somebody who's knowledgeable and almost like an authority figure in the Call of Duty space. Do you feel any sort of pressure or like responsibility when something happens in the scene, in the space, and you put out your thoughts to it? Do you feel any sort of like you got to watch what you say, or you have to really talk about this sort of thing and all that kind of stuff?
I think before I felt like there was like a balance where it's like, you got to be careful what you say. But like now I've gotten to a point where I've been around long enough, I'm established that I could really make a video about whatever I wanted on my, like if I bashed the game, like it's not like I'm going to not get invited to the next COD event, because I'm always going to be tactful about how I say what I say, and it's going to be supported by X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to just pull it out of thin air most of the time. And I think the authority part is sometimes I got to be more accurate than the regular creator. Like I can't say, like there's creators right now that can say that, the Milano's back in the game and it's the WSP 9 or something. Like that is a bold-faced lie. We all know it. The people clicking on it know it. The people watching it know it. They can enjoy the content. The creator making the content knows it. It's fine. But if I did it, people would be like, well, yeah, you're lying and blah, blah, blah. But they understand that the creator is doing what they're doing. So I've limited myself in some ways that I have to do things a certain way and I can't just lie. And that's why right now where the COD, where the meta gets particularly dry, I can go 5 or 6 days without uploading. Because what am I going to do? I'm going to talk about the 10th base gun that no one's using and talk about how trash it is, like I can't even think of a title that's going to be attractive other than lying.
Yeah.
And those other channels can, because if they drop 40 kills because they're extremely talented or whatever other means, that it's a pure entertainment. Me talking about a crappy gun for 10 minutes is not entertainment. And people are interested when it's the good gun because they want to know, ooh, what's the strengths and weaknesses? And I'm going to actually use this. You're not going to be invested in the Dragunov, right? Essentially, we're talking, if it's not the meta, it's the Dragunov. That's how big of a gap it is when it comes to the guns, Yeah. But hopefully it spreads out a little bit more. I think when we were in Cold War, around that time, Cold War was like the peak COD, because we had, anyone could use almost what the heck they wanted. Even the off-meta stuff was still viable. So, I think it'll be a matter of time to get there. It seems like they want to, I just don't know what the heck they're lacking. We're already going into season 4 or whatever.
There's part of me that likes to think that they've got a plan somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But that part of me is getting smaller and smaller every month that goes past. You started to really hit, like I was saying earlier, tens of thousands of views, and then you hit your first million view video. It was the one where you're comparing the
Nuketown.
operators.
Operator mods.
Yeah, all the mods are for the operators, and reaching those kinds of numbers, I'm not sure what it hit when it first came out, but now it's well over 1 million. What were you thinking? Was it like a gratification? Was there like a hype to it? And you're like, no, that's what it deserved. It's reality kind of thing.
Well, what's funny is this happens in content creation all the time, and where that was a throwaway video, and I say that loosely, like videos aren't throwaway videos, but like that was essentially when I was like, no one cares about this. Let me just throw, like I said, it's, new players, like it was definitely a new player thing, even maybe old players, but it was a new concept. It was pretty cool, where basically, you could take up 2 attachments or whatever, but I just threw it together and I was like, I'm just going to go through each and show what they do. And it was like a 6-minute video, didn't think nothing of it. And then whoof, to the moon. And it was like, okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happened. It was like a happy accident. Versus my Nuketown video, that was more of a planned, where I already knew, I'd already seen some other videos pop off from previous, every Treyarch game, they basically have a Nuketown. And I saw somebody got like 3 million views, and I was like, oh, okay. So I had already, knowing that they were going to add Nuketown at some point, I had already gone and recorded all the B-roll for each of the titles. So Black Ops 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then I already had all the footage. I already had it all kind of together. And then I already recorded all my dialogue up until BO4. And then as soon as it dropped on BO4, I did the Easter egg. I got it, threw it in the video, did the commentary for the last 2 minutes, and then boom, up it went. And it didn't do anything for the first day or two. Then all of a sudden, usually the third day, the algorithm picks it up for YouTube, and the video just started. It was like 40,000 views an hour or something stupid. It was like, what the heck is going on, bro? And it would just keep going up and up. And I was like, all right, cool. It was good that like a video like that paid off. But a lot of those videos, I know the video could have been made better. My mic is busted in it, so you hear mouse clicks in it. And it's like, the video still did great. So sometimes people overthink some things. And that's one I wish I could go back and make sure I fix that a little bit better. But my setup wasn't set up for it at that time. It was busted. So for whatever reason.
It just goes to show, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, in 2019, I mean, that's basically when I found you, was the Modern Warfare 2019. I didn't realize it till I went back and was looking at your old videos, that I actually went and saw you spectating some of the pro players and how to get better at certain games, because I came back to the game at that time.
Yep.
So that Modern Warfare 2019, before Warzone hit, I mean, there was no real way of you knowing what was to come when Warzone came out, was there?
No. And even before we played, we got to play Modern Warfare 2019 early. It was the first time I was invited to play the game early. I had like 80,000, 90,000 subs, so I wasn't a huge channel.
How did that come about? Did they just reach out to you?
Yeah, I think they were just, because I think that one, prior to that, they usually kept it small. It was like 40 creators, but that one, it was like 250 creators or something ridiculous. They had people there from CS, they had Overwatch, Fortnite, they had basically creators from everywhere. So I did get lumped up in there. Unfortunately, I was able, like the great part about the events isn't even playing the game early all the time. It's just interacting with people who become mutuals. Because there's a lot of things that you can relate to with the creator that you can't relate to family members, friends, outside of content creation, subscribers, followers. Like it just, no one gets it like another creator. And that's regardless of what level they're at in terms of size and you know, that part of it. So I was able to make a lot of connections with that. Got to play the game early. Most of us hated it. We thought it was trash. It didn't have a mini map. Like there was a lot of issues with the game that carried over to the full game. And after the first beta weekend, they gave us back the mini map, but it still was flawed. You wanted people to rely on the compass. I think overall, it's still one of my least favorite Call of Duties ever. Even making content, it was fun to make content, but the game itself was not particularly fun to play, in my opinion. Ground War saved it, and then we didn't know that the game. I was like, holy! And I'm not a battle royale person, like either. I don't like battle royales. I think they tend to get boring pretty quick. And that's all the ones I played previous to that. It was like, oh, you know, we play, get 50, 100 wins, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm bored with this. What else is there to do? Like win farming is like whatever. And then once Warzone popped off, I said, all right, I'm going to go all in on this because I hate MW 2019. Like I can't make any more content for this game.
You're picking between two evils at that point.
Yeah. But luckily Warzone was a lot of fun. It was good. And fortunately for me, Exclusive Ace did not like Warzone, did not enjoy Battle Royale and the reason why I say that is because then we would have been like competing for views when essentially I became an Exclusive Ace version, my own version, but like I fulfilled the niche for Warzone and he did multiplayer, and Drifter at that time kind of stopped making videos mostly, at least with any sense of urgency to get them out rapidly. And so essentially I was able to capitalize on that niche.
Were you guys all at the Modern Warfare 19? Like, did you guys know each other at that point?
We had followed each other. I think it's almost inevitable because the type of content we do, our subscribers would be like, well, JGOD said, well, Exclusive Ace said, and it's like, all right, well, it's my video, you know, but we got along. Well, we've gotten along, and we've when we've gone to events, we've like hung out the entire time. So I would say, like in terms of content creators, we're pretty close once we're there. It's not like we hit each other up regularly. We're not jumping in Discords, but we're at an event. We're definitely mutuals there, like where we're conversating.
I was wondering if there was any sort of like secret Discord conversations where you guys are discussing who's better and, talking trash to each other.
No. I think he's definitely a better player, but I think I got like 8 years on him or 6 years on him. I'm much older. Which people don't realize, 36-year-old to be gaming against these 17-year-old, 18-year-old demons is not even fair. I can literally be their dad.
From experience, I know that is painful. But you were at 99,000 subs on YouTube before Warzone hit, and after it came out, just exploded. I mean, no one could have guessed the popularity that Warzone was going to have.
Yeah, no way. And I did a lot of the content. I was doing gameplay stuff initially, but I realized pretty quick that like it would be better for me to do the analytics stuff just because the gameplay stuff takes way too long to do. Especially back then where you would just play. You might play for 4 hours and you get one good gameplay where you didn't die and you got a decent amount of kills and you won the match and you use this off meta weapon. It's like a lot of ends. And the other way was just, it made more sense for time efficiency. Who knew that it would end up taking over how much time it actually takes to test stuff? I had tested things plenty before, but the detail at which you needed to test in Warzone with there's no websites, there's nothing. And the first year was just like, cool, go with the flow, do what I do for multiplayer, but like transition it over. And then the second year is where it really popped off with Cold War.
I mean, it's crazy how there was that gap. It was almost like a gaping hole there because none of the stats of the guns would match up to how they would actually perform in real life. Like the bar graphs would just seem off. Yeah. And like, so, I mean, you became like a source of knowledge for, I would say, the entire COD community. This is JGOD approved meta loadout kind of thing. And it became known that you would be doing all this testing and actually this gun that everyone thinks is good is actually quite trash.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked out really well. And that went on probably for about the first 8 or 9 months of Warzone. And then around that time, like like a lot of creators, they kind of turtle up when they start having success. I think they kind of because content creators, people want to try and leech off people's success. It's just inevitably part of the nature of making content creation. I never really like shied away from like shouting to people out or like talking about stuff. So True Game Data, which is pretty well known in the community, has his established YouTube channel, his website. I remember seeing his website when it was essentially, I think he would say it was pretty bad compared to the standard it's at now. But it was super simple, super basic. And once I found it, I talked about it in a couple videos. He evolved the site a little bit, and then he started making videos. I shouted him out. He exploded instantly, and he was able to be like a peer in the community that was able to make content. And then probably around the second year, third year, sim.gg, they'd been covering stats for games with extreme detail, data mined. That got added, and once that, then it was game over, because then I could save 7 hours a day not testing. I could just look up the numbers. So that was extremely helpful in terms of my playtime, because a lot of people were like, oh, you don't even play the game anymore and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know if you know this, but me spending 7 hours shooting a barn 500 meters away is not playing the game. And I was putting in 7 hours a day, So that's just one example. But, I was still, I actually play the game more now than I did back then.
Kind of enjoy it now more.
But the perception is I play less because I'm not sitting in plunder for 10 hours, whatever. So I think it's a better balance too. And I have a little bit more free time to actually play tons of other games in addition to COD. So I'm playing more COD, but I'm also playing more games more frequently, more often. And it allows me to stream versus like, I'm not going to shoot in plunder for 7 hours streaming. Like, so basically I chalked streaming for those that year and a half.
Yeah. I was about to bring up the live streaming, especially. I mean, I'm not sure if you previously live streamed on YouTube. I think you alluded to that one.
During World War II, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. The Twitch streams were essentially something that happened, in 2020 after you had been already making videos for years at that point. And you basically already had built like a following of people who would come. Did you feel that when you first started streaming that it wasn't that, oh, there's nobody there? You kind of already had like these people who knew you that would come in and say hello.
Well, on YouTube, it was kind of a dedicated core. We usually hovered under 100 viewers. And then eventually I just stopped streaming because you spend so much time testing stuff, making videos, doing spreadsheets, to make it, you got to prep stuff for the video. And then you record the video, edit all that stuff. And then, so eventually it got to a point where it was like, oh, the video's doing really good. I should, really good. I should stream. And the streams popped off. I got partner after like a month and whatever on Twitch. And the viewership was insane during that time. And then like after Warzone 2, I didn't stream almost at all. I'm like, I'm not going to log on to this game. It's miserable. I'm not going to play it. Like Warzone 2 was the worst experience ever. And the fact that they robbed us of Rebirth Islands, Fortune's Keep, there was so much that they robbed from us, in addition to the stuff not carrying over like it does today. So I didn't play, I didn't stream. And unfortunately, it was at the detriment of my channel, which was like, obviously if you don't stream, people go watch other people. So now when I stream, I feel like I held a respectable viewer count and things like that. And I stream when I enjoy it, and I'm there when I want. If I'm not streaming, I'm doing something else. Like if I'm streaming, it's because I want to be there.
2021 was a huge year. I wanted to ask you about hosting your own 100K tournament.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think it was in Verdansk. How did that come about?
So they were hitting up creators at that time. I guess Call of Duty had a ton of money to like put out for tournaments. I think Huskers had a tournament. Teep had a tournament. Huskers might have had 2 tournaments. But basically they hit up everyone, and they hit me up and they said, hey, we wanted you to do your own tourney. And I was like, all right, cool. They're like, here's kind of the rules. And I was like, yeah, that tournament format sucks. I want to do my own. And then basically they gave me free will to do what I wanted. And I came up with my own tournament, which I think could be improved on, but it allowed basically everyone to get a little bit. And every game mattered. That was the cool part, is basically every matchup mattered, because we did like a pool play system. And then the points you got, every win you basically got $1,000. And at the end, obviously, if you lasted longer, then you'd play more matches and you could potential to win. So basically, I think everyone in the tournament walked away with at least one win. So they had at least $1,000. So it worked out pretty good. It was over 4 weeks. Viewership was great. The watch party style that we do now with the pulse check on Hector and the boys, like it was very much similar, but it was only one POV.
That would have been insane to have your name, like I know you've gone to events and things like that, but to have your name associated with a Call of Duty, event like that would have been huge. Even coming as a fan and a player from back in the day, to be able to like step up to that kind of level would be, I'm imagining it would feel insane.
Yeah, and it's been weird with that too, because my growth was like fast and like overnight almost. Like it just happened so quick. I didn't expect it. Like there was a gradual growth from like 1 to 100K. Like there was an incremental but as soon as like around, I think I was at 130K when Warzone actually dropped between Modern Warfare 2019 to 100. But then like once Cold War hit, I think I was at like 500K. There was months where I gained like 150,000 subs in 1 month.
Wow.
And it was like, wow. And then like Twitter started popping off and then like, then people vouch for you that you're like, damn, I watch this person all the time. Whether it was, one of the most like that kind of helped a lot, I think, was Teep and Nick Merckx. Both, one Teep, it was around the time with the DMR was broken. There was a barrel, the titanium barrel. At this point, it didn't hurt. It helped like rate of fire, bullet velocity, and recoil or whatever. It was bugged essentially, but the description didn't say any of that. And because that attachment was broken, I tested all the bullet velocities on every barrel, on every gun. So I was able to say, yep, this is wrong. And then basically Teeps, makes his loadout and chat's telling him JGOD said this. And he's like, who the hell is JGOD? And then eventually he's like, you know what? He's right. And then basically from there, I think he dropped the follow. And then once it's like a chain, because then somebody will see your account and they're like, oh, Teep follows this guy. He must be legit, or whatever the case is. And then there was a time when like Nick Merckx, he was playing Warzone with Tim and all them. And then the chat was like, well, JGOD said this. And then he probably watched one of my videos and like, this is too many numbers for me. I don't know. But at the end of the day, he understood what it meant. Each one of those numbers was like somebody testing for 20 minutes on each attack. So he even tweeted that out, and then it was like, oh damn, another vouch. Like, this is crazy. I was watching him play wagers and whatever, Call of Duty way before, so those are like some surreal moments that I think tipped the iceberg. And then like once it's the tip of the iceberg, it just launched from there, and then it kind of just kept going.
I feel like you said your growth felt slow. I feel like that's kind of putting a disservice to yourself, because you've been doing this for a number of years and you have been putting in the work for a long time. I think it's pretty deserved. I wouldn't take that away from you.
Well, I meant more slow, like from a sense from like for those first 3 or 4 years, and then it exploded. So relative to that explosion, it was slow, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, what would you say? Okay, if you could imagine a world without the way Warzone took off and like exploded the gaming space and bringing all the numbers to the game, could you see yourself still doing the same YouTube and everything the way you were doing it before? Like, or do you think that changed everything for you in a way?
If Modern Warfare 2019 went the full year, I probably would have switched games.
Really?
Yeah, I think the game was terrible. I couldn't have played it for a year. And the only people who were playing it for the whole year were competitive players or S&D people. Really? Realistically? That's it?
I mean, in this parallel world, where do you think the JGOD YouTube channel would have shifted to from Call of Duty for that, at least that year?
That year, it could have been like, I don't know if Destiny was good at that time. I do enjoy Destiny 2 as a game. I think it fundamentally has everything. There's already a guy that does all the data stuff. Datto is that guy. And I've seen him from like tiny channel to now he's a huge YouTuber as well. And it's just one of those things that it may have been that. I do have some testing videos on Destiny 2 on my channel still. Testing like Celestial Nighthawk, how it does damage versus this versus the other, and there's math on there and talking about the resilience and all. So It could have been related to that. I would have been like a couple years removed because World War II is kind of when that game dropped. So I'd have been 2 years late jumping in, but I would have just committed and made the content.
Interesting you say that. I know you've got multiple YouTube channels. So you've got different, like you've got a no commentary JGOD, you've got the more JGOD. And it doesn't look like you're afraid to post different games to your channels. Like I know some people freak out, like it has to be Call of Duty on this channel. This channel has to be something else. I mean, is that something that you've sort of looked at and researched?
Not really. I think how it generally works is my no commentary I haven't posted on in like over a year, I think. But the more JGOD, it was when I was playing and getting gameplays, I was posting them there. And then my main channel was my main channel. And then I keep gameplays separate because people didn't come to my main channel to watch me play. If they want to watch me play, go to the more JGOD. But generally the two routes I would go is I would either just switch cold turkey, I guess that would be, automatically over to the new content. If I was ready to full send it with the strategy on what my videos were going to be going forward, probably never talk about it, never do anything, because like you just go all in on that and that's what it is. And we never look back. And that's the only way you can really change your content on a channel. Or you'd have to start a new channel. So it'd be like JGOD's Destiny 2 or whatever the hell it would be called. But it would have to be that route, because what happens is your subs that watch you for one thing, they only watch you for the one thing. There are people that will watch you for everything, but they will go over and click on that new channel more likely than somebody who doesn't want to watch that. They're not going to click on it, and they're going to ruin your algorithm because they're not going to click on the video. They're going to hurt the SEO, the click-through rate. They're a lot of variables. I've known creators that did this where they popped off in Fortnite, they switch over, and it's like they can't come back to COD. It just is what it is. And some can. Marksman is one of these that he did this. He did Call of Duty S&D for like 7 years, went to Fortnite for 2 or 3, dabbled in competing. Game got too sweaty with SBMM, and he said it's not even fun anymore. He came back to COD, and he's still a creator in the space that he had some steps, but he caught his footing because he's a good creator. And and that's the reality, is any good creator can make content in anything if they want to and they're passionate about it. It's just a matter of those steps. One
thing I've noticed is that you don't tend to make a lot of shorts or TikToks and that sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, you do, and they do pretty well, but it seems like that you shy away, or you're not interested in that sort of side of things more than
I am. And that's a lack on my end. I don't enjoy the short form, so I'm not going to make it. Like if I was making it, it would be purely because I want to chase the bag or whatever, even though they don't pay out well in sense by themselves, but the boosted stats that you get from shorts could lead to partnerships and other revenue, whether that's short term or long term. That would be its own thing. And I just don't care enough about, I know it sounds stupid, but I don't care enough about chasing a bag to do something I just don't want to do. And like you said earlier, I have the flexibility to do what I want, when I want, how I want. So I'm only going to do what I want, how I want, when I want, regardless. So it kind of hurts me in that regard, because if I was like, I have to do everything to get the bag because I need the money now, then I'd be posting shorts daily, probably 3 a day. And then I'd be uploading a gameplay channel. I'd be 17 videos a day. We'd be popping them out, so, but realistically, I'm very comfortable where I'm at, fortunately, for multiple different reasons, with YouTube included, but on top of YouTube. And, things have worked out the way they are. So I get extreme flexibility in what I want to do.
I do like the route, that the way you've gone about everything. I mean, a lot of the creators I've spoken to are based on live streaming, and then, it's sort of like becomes, I need to make videos to get people into my live stream kind of thing, where you're pretty much based on everything on your long form videos, and they can grow even while you're offline, people watching those and all that kind of thing. So how would you say, I mean, it's obviously more stable on YouTube. Would you say creating videos compared to...
Yeah, for sure.
Compared to living off a live streaming income where it can fluctuate kind of thing?
Yeah, I think live streaming is very different. because I think there's different like metas that happen with live stream, the same way they happen with guns and videos. There's a lot of these metas. I think a lot of the high energy streams tend to do a little bit better on their sub to viewer ratio, which definitely drives your revenue. I don't know if it necessarily helps viewership every time, but definitely the viewership to sub ratio where you can monetize your stream and people are actively supporting through gifted and those types of things. And more the laid back, it's not the same, because usually the people in the loud ones, they're gonna donate to be attention seeking in a way, even though they are supporting. It's really about that shout out and making a big deal, and because people are supporting, which is huge. But for me, that's just not my personality. I'm not gonna get down at the party and break dance and that's just not me.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna fake it on stream, and unfortunately that puts me at a disadvantage when it comes to the meta. But I think in general, like, I'm able to maybe even talk about topics differently than somebody else or whatever, just because of how I'm able to do things. I think there are types of content that I could probably do with live streaming that I haven't leaned into as much. There's IRL stuff that I can do that I haven't leaned into as much, partly because, whether it's comfort zone or like there's not necessarily a need to push to do those things. So it's kind of a balance of both.
One of those higher energy people that you speak of, I think of Hector straight away. I think of Repulse. And you guys have formed, I think, a pretty good combination on the Pulse Check podcast. You guys have that sort of, you're the more level head. He's a bit more, talkative, flamboyant sort of guy. How did you guys end up linking up to make that kind of thing happen? And was the podcast idea something that you were interested from the start, or has it grown on you?
So I had gotten offered to do other podcasts before. There was other content creators. We even did like a first episode, and then there was nothing else that ever came of those. It's like they did a one and done. Creators or content creators, it's very hard for them to step, like the thing I just mentioned where like I'm not stepping out of my comfort zone in those things, and I'm aware of it. Very many content creators, the numbers do get to them very bad. And if you are a gameplay centric channel and then you switch over to do a podcast one day, your viewership will probably tank. If you go to play another game, your viewership's probably going to tank. And that gets in people's heads. So what do? They go back to the other thing that gives them more. Even if they enjoy the other thing better, it doesn't matter. It's a vicious cycle. Unfortunately, all creators go through it to a certain extent. Even the biggest ones, when they switch categories, they go from 100K down to 60K. If Jinxie isn't playing on Rainbow Six, his viewership can be higher if it's just chatting. But sometimes if he's just playing another game, it'll cut, right? It's just the nature of streaming. So initially he hit me up, and then he's like, "Oh, you want to talk?" Boom, we talked about it, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm down. This would be a good opportunity for me to get streaming more regularly." Because the hardest part for me was always like I don't have a problem once I'm live, but like literally going to set up and then press go live was always like the pain in the ass part, essentially. Like pressing the button, that's it. And once I'm good, I'm good. Yeah. I can go 14, 15, 12, 8, 4, 3 hours. It doesn't matter. Like I'm live, I'm in the moment. I have chat to engage with. So I said, this could be a good opportunity for that. So it'll give me into the habit, because if I'm working with someone, I'm not going to let them down. I'm going to be there. I'm reliable. I'm there. So that's kind of how it started. And then he initially had this vision of having like 2 other people with us. And I said, well, part of the problem was when you do 2 other people, now you're going to have to coordinate schedules. They're not going to put their things aside for you. They're not going to, and the people that will, they're usually not a big enough creator that they're adding as much value as maybe I'm adding in the scenario that he's adding in the scenario. So initially I said, well, let's start off small and then just the 2 of us, and we'll cycle through people through. So initially we had Iceman Isaac all the time, Joe Woe, and then eventually we've had, now Ebates is kind of like the main, like third piece of the polls check. And then we usually try to invite other people on, whether it's FIFA, Breadman, Joe again, or whoever in the scene. It's just to keep it as simple as possible. Because once you start getting other people, then they'll get egos and all this other stuff and be like, well, they have the more viewership. If they're getting a sponsor, they should be splitting money. Like I already had the conversation with Hector and I said, I'm perfectly comfortable with what I need to do. If you need me to fly out to your house, I have no problem just flying out to your house. We can do something there. And there's not a lot of creators that, one, are comfortable enough to do that, and two, like would be willing to change their situation to do that. Yeah. So it just kind of worked out. Obviously, it's a little give and take, but it is what it is.
I mean, and in terms of, the roles on a podcast is different to making a video a little bit. How much research did you guys do? Any research? Like, I mean, you said yourself when you're setting up the YouTube side of things, you're looking at different videos, how things work, and what works better for what. Did any of this come into question when you started doing this side of things?
Not as much. I've looked into a couple things, but Hector's the main driver of the podcast, right? I make sure I'm available and those types of things. He has a lot of team of people, like more than I would have had, like just because I wouldn't know who to, but he's made it work, and he's made it incredibly easy on my end where I show up. I know kind of a general idea of what we're going to talk about, and I'm on, and I've been doing this long enough. I can be, professional, talk about whatever topic off the cuff. I can think of stuff, whatever, if it's a quip or be funny, that works too. And it worked out because we were able to go to the World Series of Warzone. Like as,
insane.
And that was a paid for us to go there. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we paid out of pocket to go. Like, it was a thing for us to go.
That was, would that be like the biggest event that you've gone to in terms of the ones that you have gone to and attended?
I would say it's kind of hard. I've gone to probably like 8 or 9 events. I feel like the old school Anaheim MLG, like Call of Duty, those events were bigger just because they had like 12 teams or like maybe like 30 teams there or something crazy. Not like now it's only 12 teams. At the major, and then it's like at champs there's only 8 teams, and it's like whatever. It's not nearly as big as it was before. So I would say that was one of the biggest events. But the big difference is you would think that people in Call of Duty would know generally who I was if I was in a CDL event, but people don't. Multiplayer people, that I've gained enough on just Warzone that those people. So when we go to events, I could just walk by nonchalant, no big deal. No one even recognized me, nothing. Until maybe one person goes, oh, hey, are you JGOD? And then, but at that event, that was insane. Literally, you could not walk around the event without being spotted like, oh, JGOD, hey, what's your JGOD? So it was totally a different animal in that sense. Where like when I go to a CDL event, it's like I'm incognito, like no one even hardly recognizes or notices.
I was going to ask you, what's that like being recognized in public now when you do go to an event like that? Or is there any sort of interactions when you go about your daily life outside of the house? Do you get recognized in the streets at all?
The events, it's cool just because it's usually quick, nothing crazy. You kind of expect it there because it's like there's COD people. But in public, it's only happened about 6 or 7 times total, like ever. It was like a couple times at an airport, a couple times at like a restaurant. And that's kind of...
That'll catch you off guard.
Yeah. Right. One was at a gas station, and that one was like really weird because the guy comes up to me. In my head, I'm thinking no, because I thought he was going to ask for money. And I was like, because they're always there trying to hustle for like, oh, my car broke down and I have a flat tire and I just need gas to get to the next place. And it's always one of those. And I was like, and he just goes, hey, what's up? You're JGOD, right? And I was like, oh, hi. Yeah, what's going on? Yeah. So that was the only one that really caught me off guard because the way he approached, it was like he was going to ask for change or something like that. But it's just kind of how it goes.
You did mention that when you started this journey, you had your son who was a little one. So, I mean, unlike a lot of people who maybe get kids as they've already established, and it's sort of like finding a balance between life and creating things. How have you managed to do that, like balance your personal life away from being in front of a camera to, finding enough time to put in all the work that you do to establish yourself in a scene like that?
Well, I think initially when he was little, it was before he had school or anything like that. So I would work when he had naps or like in the middle. So I would just lose sleep. That was essentially what was happening. I was losing sleep and I just made it work. And then by the time he was like 4, I had him in like pre-K. So he'd be at school for like 5 hours or something like that. So I'd go take him, boom, let me jump on, make sure I get my recording. I got to edit, blah, blah, blah. And then I got to go pick him up, and then you got to feed him, bathe him. You know, you got to do laundry, you got to do everything, you know? And then, at a certain point it worked out because, I had space in my house. I had a 3-bedroom house, and, basically only was using one of the rooms. So my, brother, he was moving about 80 miles from where he was. It was expensive, near LA. I'm outside of LA, so it's cheaper. It's more expensive now, but it was cheaper then. And I said, oh, you guys should move in. Like, I won't charge you anything. And you guys could live here for a few months, get established, like get comfortable with the area. And then you could like save your money. You don't have to pay rent. And then you guys could just like go buy a house. And then what would work out coincidentally at that time is my niece, which is their daughter at the time. Well, she's still their daughter, but now they have a son as well. But they have a daughter and about the same age as my son. So they were able to coordinate. So my sister-in-law ended up doing a lot of things where she was like, oh, I'm going to take them to the park. Boom. Now I'm like, cool, I got a couple hours. Or take them to school because they're like at the same school or whatever. And then it got to a point where they were thinking, oh, we're thinking of moving. And I was like, well, how about we just do a different plan? We just get a bigger house and we go in it together. So that's what we ended up doing. And we ended up moving about 5 miles down the road. We got a 5-bedroom. With this room, doesn't count as one of those rooms. And so everyone has their own space, and you know, the kids don't overlap or whatever. Everyone has their own room and everyone's comfortable and it just works. So if I need to stay up late because there was an update or I need to do something, then she's taking my son to school because her daughter goes to the same school. So it worked out convenient that way. So we do live together, but like we kind of have our own space. You know, it works out really functionally that way.
Yeah, and I know you're very open about, you know, your son wanders in the camera sometimes. He comes in to get stuff and all that stuff. Does he know who you are in the COD space? Is like, because I know he plays the game, but does he know where you're standing? Does he understand all that kind of stuff?
Sometimes I think he gets it because he does watch YouTubers, and he feels like that's an awesome perk that who I am, only because when we've gone to events, he gets to meet all these people, whether it's, you know, Hector or Lucky Shamu or Biffle or whoever we've met at events. I mean, I took him to the World Series of Warzone with me, with my sister.
Oh, really?
So like literally when we go, he walks, he's like, oh, I got to meet Swag. I got to meet Booyah. I got Jace. That's Jay Smooth, you know, it's like one of those. Yeah. So, because of also who I am, like, I don't think generally when I go to these events, people don't have a problem with me. Like, I don't stir up trouble. So most people are willing to say, hey, what's up? And, you know, whatever. And they realize that he's hyped or whatever. So he sees that kind of as a perk. Sometimes I do got to be like, I got to explain to him and I've got to reiterate it. You can't tell people where you live. You can't tell. Yeah. you can't do this. Yeah. Yes. You can't say that this, because the first thing you do when somebody tells you, hey, they look you up and they like do research on you. Like you're somebody, like, I'm just a dude.
There is someone out there who
I'm
will
just
do
a
that,
dude, bro. Just chill. So that's kind of where he's got comfortable, and he's 10 now. So he's mostly there, but he's still 10, you know, so it's one of those.
I got to ask about some of the communities from, you know, maybe from the outer skirts of the Call of Duty scene, where they did start making videos about yourself, you know, you're cheating and all that, all the, you know, the other side of things that, you know, not so positive people. They did bring up your son in one of the videos, and I looked at that as a dad as well, and I was kind of like, I think there's another side of some people that, you know, you don't have kids, you don't understand how protective you can be, and like it can sort of get to you a little bit. But how did you deal with that side of things? Because you've kept it pretty calm, I think, on all the TLs when it comes to that kind of thing.
Well, normally I just avoid it, but with that I did end up making a tweet just because people were like absurd. It is sad that people get manipulated a little too easily. I mean, yeah, it's very bizarre. I do understand what you're saying too with that part of it, because it was like, I was really pissed off at that. Like normally the other stuff I'm like, what an idiot, let him farm his bag off of other idiots, you know? But this one was like, what if somebody like shows up my son's school because of this weird dude, bro? Like and they have a kid too, to my knowledge. And it's like,
okay.
And it's like, I would never be giving details out and be, oh, here's what they look like. Here, go track them down in this area. Like, they have, you can't control your viewers, but, you're putting like a match to flame. Something's going to happen. And it's unfortunate that somebody would go out of their way to make content that they know that the end result they can't control. And the end result is there's a non-zero chance something stupid happens. That's the problem. But it is what it is. It blipped over. I think slowly those people have kind of lost their credibility. Not that they had much to begin with, but every day that goes by, it's like they're less credible because every day is another debunk of
another reach.
Another reach is like, bro, I almost thought about doing a video of like just adding up how many videos they made about one particular streamer and just do the math, like how much they owe,
how much they owe that person.
But that's hilarious. Just the analytical side of me is like, it'd probably take like 5 minutes, but like, it'd be funny, but maybe if I want an impression farm next month or something.
when at that time there was a lot of the community, the bigger creators as well, who almost leapt to the defense, kind of like, all right, this is beyond a joke when you talk about someone's kid like that. Yep. So I mean that was a positive to see a lot of the level heads come in and say, all right, this is a bit too much now. So I mean, who are the names that you'd say you sort of look at in the community, because you are pretty active and knowing what's going on with people, what they're doing, their stream, their content, what's going on YouTube? Who are the people that you look at for your own inspiration, to either as a creator or even just personality, like the way people operate?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I do watch a lot of non-COD content. And like I do enjoy watching different streamers and how they basically run their business essentially. I think one that's like, he ended up winning an award at the Streamer Award thing, which is Maximilian Dude, and his community with Yo Video Games and his boys that have basically been making content for like 12 years. I think the concept of that is like awesome. And I think most people, if they could choose between doing things solo and having a team like that, they would choose the team. Like, why not, right? But things don't always organically happen like that. I do like the way he presents his content, the way he stays out of drama. Like, it's just good vibes. There's other people that like is controversial, which is Asmongold. Obviously, he's a super popular person on the platform. I like his ability to talk about anything, and he can basically turn it into content. And whether people love him or hate him, they still watch. People still watch. So I like the concept of that. I think there's Quinn. He's from your area, Quinn69, and I like what he does with all of his, like, he has AI songs and pop-ups and animations and his camera flips, and he's doing all these other things in addition to his stream that are cool. So like outside of COD, I think there's plenty of people that do variety. Glad is another content creator, very much how I see myself long term, which is he went from Destiny 2 to essentially full-time variety. He was essentially one of the biggest creators in that space, and as soon as he felt like the game was dry, he went full send on variety. Well, he gradually did it strategically, and now he can play whatever he wants and still have about 2,000 viewers, which is like a perfect scenario. You got your community, people vibe with you. He's not involved in drama, and it works out pretty good. Like he has a cool community, and it works out that way. So I think those are a couple creators that like I see, and I'm like, oh, I see all these things, and what's great about all those creators, they're all themselves. Like I think there are some creators that are more like, oh, I can't say this, I can't say that, or they just say whatever the hell they want, and like it is what it is, So it works out. They are themselves on camera as they are off.
There are, I've noticed, the more time I spend in your streams as well, there are people who don't like how direct you are with some of your answers towards them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's refreshing. I mean, there's a lot of people who might beat around the bush and like give an answer like a politician speak without actually giving an answer, but you're not afraid to just this is what I think, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate in some scenarios because people aren't used to people just talking to them, however, that they feel like I'm being offensive. And I'm like, I'm just talking. Like, it's not that. Is it up or down? It's up. Okay, cool. That's it. Like, it's not
personal.
Yeah,
Not personal.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So if you had to go back and give yourself advice from when you started 5 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, what do you think you would go back and tell yourself?
I would have probably streamed way more during peak Verdansk and Caldera. I would have streamed way more. I had so many more viewers that were interested, even if it was just spreadsheets. Like, I would have just gotten to the habit of doing it then. It didn't work because I was testing so many hours, but test less, upload maybe a hair less, and get in a couple 4 or 6 hour streams every so many days. Just because I feel like that community that enjoyed that, I let them, loosely find other viewers, which is fine. But now they're watching other people when I would still have that core audience building my community. I still have a community, of course, but like, obviously there's a lot of people who are like, oh, where'd they go? And they're gone. I don't know.
I mean, do you go anywhere for advice and guidance in the scene like that, or do you pretty much kind of stick to yourself? Because I know there's some people who have like a support network, like a community of people they talk to, other streamers or whatever. And like you said, a lot of the problems you might have, your family might not understand. Like, is there anyone in the space that you go to in that kind of?
There's actually 2 separate areas. There's like a Discord where it's like just a bunch of content creators, and most people are just hanging out in there, like BSing. They might go and record their content. They might do this or that, but it's just like there's a Discord of a bunch of people in there. Besides that, I'm usually in another Discord with another creator that's kind of more popped off recently. But we've been in the same Discord for like 7 years. When we each had like 500 like subscribers. So we've been there like since the beginning, and that's Earl Shatter. He does zombies content now. He did ZMZ when it was DMZ. And I think he's going to continue zombie, but we're always even if we're literally uploading nothing related, we're in the Cord, so it's kind of one of those.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That's awesome to hear because, it can be very isolating if you're making your own videos, but it is important to find that community outside of what you're doing because you can get lost in your own thoughts and doubts and whatever, and it's just bouncing ideas sometimes off someone can help a ton. So what's the plan for the next couple of years? How far ahead do you think? Do you plan and all that, or do you just take it game by game, month by month, or anything like that?
I slowed down quite a bit last year, which would allow me to reflect that I don't need to be in like hyper overdrive. So I don't think I'll ever go into hyper overdrive like I was during Warzone 1 at the end, where I was uploading every single day. Updates would have like 3 up. I don't think I'll do that just because like the quality of life is just not as good, and like I don't have to, if I wanted to, I'd have to invest in like shorts or something like that to go that route. So I don't really see myself going that way. I don't think COD's going anywhere for the foreseeable future. I don't see another misstep until IW makes another COD. Sad to say, but that's going to be for at least we got Treyarch, and maybe IW will change my mind. MW2 was terrible. MW 2019 was terrible, in my opinion. So people don't get upset. So I don't see them making their next IW4 or not IW4, but MW4. I don't see that being I don't know. I think Treyarch's going to do whatever they do, and it's either going to be huge or it's going to flop. I really was looking forward to some other like extraction style games. They had that marathon game that was supposed to come out by Bungie or whatever, but it sounds like they've gone off the rails and they're making something terrible. So I don't know. I think I'm comfortable doing that, doing variety games, continue to build my streams up, hang out with the community that enjoys gaming, not just COD, dopamine, and just kind of do that. Continue doing the podcast stuff, getting involved with events. And by the time you said 3 or 4 or 5 years, I mean, I'm gonna be 40. So maybe I'll go syndicate route, do all IRL content, and just go that route. Just live it up.
Well, it's going to be whatever route you take. I'll be looking forward to it, man. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your story, JGOD. And thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching episode 31 of the Unfiltered Podcast with JGOD. If you want to head to the Patreon page now, there you'll find some bonus segments, which include a rapid fire round and JGOD's reaction to some of the wildest, nicest, and weirdest comments across his socials. If not, feel free to go back and check out some of our previous guests. We have some amazing creators already featured on the podcast. And subscribe so you can find your way back for the next one.